سورة ياسين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون. هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون. ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون. فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون. أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
عجل فرجهم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم اللهم إني أدعوك كما أمرتني فاستجب لي كما وعدتني يا من لا يخلف الميعاد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم أسألك أسأل من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقباحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلته وكم من عثار وقيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم أعظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي آمالي وقادت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي سيدي. فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دون سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في الأحوال كلها رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهواه وأسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك. ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي، أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيد وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيته أو تشرد من آويته أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدة، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقة وبشكرك مادحة، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة. ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب، وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثوه يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك. وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي يا ربي. فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها ضج وابكي لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلأن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلايك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك هبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر على النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار أم كيف أسكن في النار أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآمنين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث إلى الله جميعا المستغيثين يا غياث يا غياث يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رباه أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت من تعذيب جاحديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأ من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدعا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيته وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله من كل خير أنزلته أو إحسان فضلته أو بر نشرته أو رزق بسطته أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي. إلى الله جميعا يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي. إلى الله جميعا يا رب يا ربي يا ربي. أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورة وبخدمتك موصولة وأعمالي عندك مقبول حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي. قو على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادنا بسوء فارد ومن كادنا فكد واجعلنا من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك واعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك واقلني عثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني منى ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع يا سريع يا سريع الرضا يغفر لمن لا يملك all together اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما يا من اسمه دواء وذكره وطاعته غنى ارحم من رس وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغا يا دافع النقم يا نور المستوحى في الظلم يا عالما صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بنا ما انت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Allah is what they call me when they see alone Ummul Baneen without sons. She is alone, not even a shadow with me alone. I have slept in countless sleepless nights. Only the stars provide me light. Without my moons and my diamonds of my night, I cry, I scream, and no one hears without my moons, without darkness of this night. My wounds bleed not healed without my moons. I weep only the stars witness my tears. I weep living in night for days and years. I weep not a moon to confront my fears alone. I recall when I was scared. They are coming, running, hearing my cries at my service. Now every day I live in fear, and not a soul confronts my heart at my service now. At my night, even my shadow leaves me alone, no longer there at my service. My house once raised by many pillars. My house only beauty in its mirrors. My house fell with Abbas, his brother, his brothers alone. Within the absence of light, what does one become? Let me tell you, I'm so alone. When the light is dim, I'm left speaking to my shadow, and it tells me I'm so alone. When there is no light, I'm left drowning by sun's shadows. They all tell me I'm so alone. Shadows are as I know of happiness. Shadows draw out of my memories. Shadows remind me that I'm so sunless alone. Know that the word goodbye is harsh upon my tongue. When you're gone, I drew the moon to pretend that my son Abbas is still with me. In his absence, I draw the moon. I send him to battle as if I don't love him. Yet when he's gone and I drew the moon, he left and I saw not a tear in my eye. He left not knowing how much I would cry. He left thinking I'm smiling. He would die alone. If I want to speak the words that within my heart rest there so deep, I recall him. I recall his hand, his tiny hands clenched, his finger. I smile. I recall him, but when I'm left overjoyed in the bundle of my joy, I see Hussein. I recall him. I see memories of me telling them. I told them I sacrificed him. I see the one that day of my house still dream alone. When I hold his children, I see them smile. I recall him. I faint and fall if they look thirsty. I would first look for Hussein. He'd not be there. I'd faint and fall. When I'd fall, I'd wait for him to pick me up. When was he win? I faint and fall. Abbas, I have blocked your name in my mind. Abbas' soul to Hussein I assigned. Abbas, but when I heard your name, find alone. Salawat Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad wa jayy farajahum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا والطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الأخلاء يومئذ بعضهم لبعض عدو إلا المتقين صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. We send our condolences to the Imam of our time, to all of you, my sisters and brothers, in that beautiful Edmonton Jamaat that I love so dearly, on tonight's being the wafat of Ummul Baneen, alayha salam. A little bit about her life. Ummul Baneen is a title given to her which literally means the mother of her sons. And she had 4 sons, all of which were there present on the day of Ashura, sacrificing their lives for Imam Hussein. Her real name was Fatimah bint Hazm. And they belonged to a very beautiful and a very strong and a very trustworthy and a very noble tribe of Bani Khila, or Bani Kila as some say. Where, as many of you have heard the history, this was a tribe that was known for their courage and their strength. And they produced warriors on the battlefield. And it was for this very reason, possibly for other reasons as well, that Imam Ali now chose to marry this woman and give birth to Abu Fazl Abbas, who of course was instrumental in protecting the mission of Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura. So, when it comes to her life, when it comes to a lot of the legacies that she's left behind, there's a lot to learn. What I want to speak a little bit about tonight, however, is something that has been, crossing my plate a lot lately, in terms of, individuals that are approaching me, people that are asking me for their advice, and it's a topic that is very near and dear to me, and one that I think should be mentioned time and time again, and that is, identifying the toxicity in your life and looking to remove that toxic nature, or at least put boundaries around it. Now, there's a few things I need to say, of course, initially. We have to identify when there are people in our life that are toxic, number one. Just because they've been friends of ours since we were a child, just because they are family of mine, just maybe perhaps because they've been part of my community since day number one. That doesn't give anybody the right to be a toxic person in your life. A toxic person is one who is very negative. Somebody who brings about this cloud of negativity, who looks to always bring you down. Somebody who is envious by nature. Somebody who is sometimes manipulative. Somebody who sometimes are people who are very negative, and they're people who there's a word I'm looking for here. It's somebody who is constantly in the victim mode. And sometimes there are people who are happy-go-lucky. They have a glass half-full approach when it comes to life. And they don't jive well with people like that in this world. But sometimes they believe that they're stuck with them. And on top of that, they believe that they don't have the right to say anything sometimes. So they keep quiet, they take the comments, they take the negativity, and they somehow try to manage it. In the process, what ends up happening is that through that management now, they've actually began to affect their own mental health and their own anxiety. And now they're placed in positions that they never thought that they would be in. And they do all of this in the name of the fact that we have no choice, Malana. This is a good friend of mine, I can't walk away. This is a family relative, I can't cut them off. This is somebody from my community, I see them almost every program. What do I do? And while I'm not here tonight to talk a little bit about ending relations and cutting off ties and severing things altogether, I do want to speak about boundaries tonight. Boundaries. I don't want it to be that all in the name of humbleness and humility, all in the name of akhlaq, let's say, for example, that you ruin the anxiety inside of your life here. You also ruin the anxiety, or you also ruin your hereafter as well. Okay? So let's start off with the first group of people that might be toxic in your life, and that being your circle of influence, mainly your friends. There are a lot of us now who have gone through our fair share experiences of people around, non-family members who are around us in our life who are toxic, who bring out the worst in us, who bring out the shaitan inside of us. And we know full well that they're doing this, but I can't now do anything else, Malana. I mean, I can't just walk away from them. I can't just ghost them and cut them off. It is important now, however, that we realize that there are limits to humbleness and humility as well. That's sometimes, things that we don't realize. It took me a long time to realize that humbleness and humility only go so far. After a while, you become a doormat. And as much as Islam preaches to be humble, it never gives us the permission to be a doormat, to be stepped all over, to lose your sense of self-respect, to be somebody who is constantly wronged and abused sometimes, emotionally and verbally, and then just to keep coming back all in the name of friendship. No, I'm sorry. Sometimes we think, oh, it's okay, let it go, and have, and there's all sorts of, these marks and scars inside of you that you've ignored, and meanwhile we're empowering the person in front of us, that toxic person in front of us, who, by the way, brings nothing to our life. Maybe I have a good laugh, maybe, I don't know, but nothing of substance is brought to my life. Now, on top of that, I have to bear all of these, these passive-aggressive comments, these little small jabs and insults, right? The backbiting and the gossiping sessions. The fact that they ask me to do things they know full well that I don't like doing, but still on the name of the circle and the group, I'm going to say yes. Right? So my point is that, let's not attach a wrong understanding of humility and humbleness. Okay? Being zalil, as they say in Urdu, being somebody who's low, being somebody who, who is like, almost a slave type of mentality is only meant for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, we're humble in front of others, but to a certain limit we have to also maintain our pride. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Allah says, I've given you that honor. We have honored the human being, the Quran says. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرُسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, the Quran says. Allah exclusively owns izzah and respect. He gives it to the Prophet and to the believers. It's not up for us now to take that respect and take that honor that Allah has given us and allow someone to come and step all over, all in the name of something that really doesn't have to be that way. I ask all of you tonight, examine your circle of influence. I've seen youth, I've seen individuals, and I have said this time and time again, who are unrecognizable in certain settings. By themselves, alone, with their thoughts, with their conscience, with that tarbiyat their parents gave them, they're gems. They're gems. Put that same child inside of a group that's toxic, and they become toxic as well. It's not fair. Don't allow someone that amount of real estate inside of your heart or mind. It's not worth it. You've worked too hard now to protect yourself from shaitan. Your parents have worked too hard to raise you to be better than that. To throw that all away for somebody, really, I'm sorry to say, who simply isn't worth it. Identify that toxic person or people in your life and begin to slowly move away from them. I'm not asking anyone now to leave the realm of akhlaq, to bash them and say you're a horrible person, you're this and no. Yes, be firm, tell them how you feel. If you have that relationship, if you want to have that confrontation, fine. If not, slowly but surely make it a point where you are not as connected. You're not responding in the WhatsApp groups, for example. You're not coming out every single time they ask you. This pandemic now, this lockdown has made life a lot easier for us to weed out the toxic people inside of our life. But slowly but surely, if they're smart, they'll get the picture that, this person's not as into this group as I thought they were. They're slowly but surely, kind of leaving, and then basically things organically now fade away. Perfect setting, right? Ideal setting. Maybe sometimes that's not the case, but it doesn't mean that you have to stick around. It doesn't mean that you have to stick around. I'll tell you, the beauty and the power of having somebody who's not toxic in your life is, you can't measure that. The verse I read for you in the khutbah from Surah Zukhruf, ayat number 67, I believe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on that day, your Khalil, your friends, يَوْمَ إِذٍ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَضُوفٌ. They'll be enemies of each other, your friends. The ones that you thought were your closest friends in this world will actually end up being your enemies in that world. Not everybody, إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ, except for the pious ones. The pious friends, the non-toxic people in your life will actually become, your companions on that day of judgment. Everybody will be searching for somebody to come and support them. They'll be there right beside you, vouching for you. Being witnesses on your behalf that, yes, I can bear witness that this person did this good act in this world at this time and day. And we want to, on that day, build as much as we can in terms of our group of witnesses and people who can vouch for us. Right? Which tells me even more about the idea that we really need to surround ourselves with the right people. Okay, Surah Furqan has a very powerful verse, talks about people who are about to enter the hellfire. Allah, now the angels are asking, what did you do to end up at this spot on the brink of the hellfire? And they say, woe unto me. I messed up. I did wrong. Lam attakhiz fulanan khalila, the Quran says. If only I didn't take fulan as my friend. If only I didn't take so and so as my friend. That friend that was toxic in nature brought me to the brink of the hellfire because I didn't fight them. I let them have so much real estate inside of me, and now I became somebody that I myself couldn't recognize. Don't let people have that effect on you. If it's your friends, if it's your circle of influence, you can take the necessary measures to slowly but surely fade away in their life. And ensure that everything is fading away properly. Maintain your akhlaq. Don't lower yourself past the level that you would never go to. But these are powerful verses. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, it's a very beautiful hadith. He says that, there are limits of friendship. And if those limits are not met, then you have to re-examine that friendship. Number one, the first thing, and I ask again, I'm not here tonight to break up friendships. I'm not here tonight to, for you to throw, 20 years of friendship away, right? Good moments and bad moments, lows and highs are all part of it. But the constant toxicity sometimes from this person is sometimes unbearable. It's daunting. It's overwhelming. It's draining. It's heavy. He says there are limits. And I want to examine those limits one by one tonight with all of you. And as usual, I keep it 35, 40 minutes tops with Masab, inshallah. I realize it's a Thursday night and watching me over a device, is tough. And watching me live is probably unbearable. Watching me over a device is definitely unbearable. But inshallah, like I said, these reminders, these messages, I'm not one to go on and on for an hour and a half or 2 hours. You know that. We keep it short, we keep it simple. We give the message and we move on. And we pray that we apply the message that I send my way. The first limit, he says, is that the person who claims to be a good friend of yours is somebody who is the same on the outside as they are on the inside. Meaning what? And I mention this hadith only because I want my young guys out there, my youth out there. Some people who think, I wish this was talked about in Islam. I wish Islam had a take on this point. And you'll be surprised how many portions of your life Islam has a take on. Islam discusses everything. It's a matter of us seeking that discussion. He says the outside and the inside of your friend has to be the same. Meaning what? Sometimes when the cameras are on, right? There's a photo op, there's a grand moment. The public can see you. Oh, this person is clung, sticking to your side. My BFF, my girl, this is my best friend, this is my best friend for life, and this is blah, 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 this and that. We're boys, we've been boys since, blah, 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 everything. Why? Because the whole world's watching, right? This selfie, this hashtag, right? Tagging the person here, this grand moment, right? Everything. Why? Because the world's watching. Behind closed doors, when no one's watching, just you and her, Just you and him? Just your two friends? Are they the same way? Are they the same way? Or was it all a show for the paparazzi and for social media and for the crowd who's watching? That, oh my God, look how close these two are. Right? We got to make sure that we're not being used for a photo op. We have to make sure we're not being used as a popularity poll. We have to make sure that we're not being used, let's say, for them to get their subscribers and their likes. So the first limit that has to be defined is the person the same, whether it's in public or whether it's in private? Number two, is your happiness their happiness? Is your sadness their sadness? When something now delights you, when you're on top of the world, when you have great news, when something that in your world, in your life worked out, are they celebrating beside you? Because remember, one of the most devastating traits of a toxic person is that they're envious. And sometimes they're envious of the closest ones to them. Why them? Why not me? How come you get this and I don't? You got married at an age that I want to get married. We're supposed to get married together. How come you found this guy, this girl to marry and I didn't? How come you got that job? It was me who applied before you did. I was the one that told you about the job. Right? How come you get to go to this trip and that trip? That's been my dream. You know it's been my dream. How dare you go without me? So meanwhile, you're on cloud nine. You're celebrating. You're happy. And they are doing what they do best, and they bring you down. Is that the case? And sometimes more importantly, when you're grieving, are they grieving with you? You lost a loved one, a tragedy. God forbid, a miscarriage, broken engagement, a lost job. People who randomly reaching out to you, messaging you, words of encouragement, positive vibes, du'as your way. But here you are waiting for what? That person who claimed to be your BFF. That's what the hashtag said, right? Best friends forever. That's the hashtag. Hashtags are great until they actually have to be applied. Here I am waiting for you. 1 day, 2 days. You know how close I was to my grandmother. You know, for example, how much I wanted a child. You know that this was my dream job. Where were you? Right? Happy when you're happy, sad when you're sad. God forbid when you're down, they internally celebrate. Or they simply aren't there to pick you up through your grief. I don't know what's worse sometimes. The third limit, look at the beauty and the wisdom of Imam Sadiq. It's incredible. It's incredible. The third limit, he says, is that any change in risk and wealth doesn't affect the friendship. Oh, that's a tough one. Tough one. Got a promotion at work. All of a sudden now you're making, you went up your salary 10%, 20%, for example. And part of that is that you're able to invest inside of a home, for example. You bought a brand new car. Your wardrobe is changing. You're traveling now. It's obvious that you're making good money, right? And again, these are all closely connected, right? Look at the first limit. Are they happy when you're happy? Does your success equate their success? Or are they all of a sudden now making you feel guilty for your success? Then why? Why? Like, you've changed so much since you got that promotion. When did you start wearing those clothes? That's a person you chose, right? Why all of a sudden, you don't have time to come out and hang out with us? This and that. All of a sudden now, you're made to feel guilty. You come to them now excited about your new car, and they don't give you the reaction that you're looking for. All because they're thinking, you know what? Why them? Why not me? That envious nature of a toxic person comes out, and they can't help it. That's simply their personality. And now why that is and how that is, that's a different discussion. Sometimes it carries forward from, childhood. Sometimes, I didn't get what I wanted when I was 20, 21, let's say, for example. So now I'm going to take it out on the rest of the world, right? The world of view changes. Everything is half empty. Everything is, I don't have. I wish I had. If only I had. Not me. Not this. Never. Right? And so you come and you enter the room and you suck the life out of that room. that negative cloud of yours hovers over the entire area. And sometimes as a friend, it's impossible to bear. I know people who hide their good news from their friends because they don't know. Like, that's not friendship, guys. That's not a circle that you want to be around. I'm sorry. It should be that you run towards them for the first time after you get that. So are there people like that in your world? Number 4, the 4th limit, is do they stop you from doing what you love? I was thinking about, for example, starting a business that's saying this. I really enjoy photography. I thought I'd take a class. For what reason? What's the point of that? You're just going to waste money. You have to buy a $2,000 camera and you have to attend the class and this and that. Just use your phone. Right? I really like calligraphy. I love the Arabic calligraphy. I want to learn how to be, you know, how to write like that and beautiful and do some artwork and, you know, maybe, who knows, maybe, you know, start my own side business. You know, I can write people's names, let's say, or make little Islamic little frames, let's say, for people's homes and nice, you know, and just, you know, it's a great idea. Your eyes lit up and, you know what, this and that, I can do that, but, you know, and then, you know, they squash it, right? They squash it. And, you know, in the process, you know, they bring that negativity around you and they make you feel like, forget it, you know, and you went from a really, really high to a really, really low. I was thinking about, for example, having a dinner at my house and inviting this person. Why that person? I mean, why? I don't get it. Why waste that money? Why? Everything's why this, why that. Question this. Are you sure? This and that. Why do you want to do that? Waste the money. Don't think about it. And it's, you know, they just crush to the point where you're like, okay, you know what? Forget it. It's okay. There's an idea I had. That idea. It's okay, because you've allowed that person now. Sometimes what we do is we empower them, right? We don't call them out. We allow them to say what they want without saying, you know, anything in return. Sometimes it's okay. You know what? You may not like this idea. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and go for it. If you don't like it, that's fine. It's okay, right? And a little bit of firmness is important. And it brings you to the 5th limit. And after that, I just want one more point on the Masada. It's already about 25 minutes into. I have my clock set up right beside me. Don't worry. And the 5th limit, Imam Salih says, is that during calamities, are they there for you? Are they there for you? And this one to me is a big one, you know. It's quite personal. Sometimes I think, you know, I look back to the hardships that I have gone through in my life, and I think back to myself, you know, there were people who shocked me, who surprised me. In terms of how they're there for my wife and I, or me, for example, then there are those that I was disappointed, and still am a little bit hurt that they weren't there for me. You know, where were they? No real excuse, this and that. But sometimes the silver lining of the hardship is that it becomes a filter for you. The calamity you go through, the hardship you go through, you really truly understand who's who in your life. And sometimes you are, you know, wowed and surprised by the fact that I never thought this person thought of me this way. They came every week, they brought food. And then you end up being disappointed in those that you really, really, really were hoping that would show up and be there. And they weren't. And as devastating as it is, it's really important that we identify those people as early as possible, just to avoid heartache, to avoid disappointment, right? You end up feeling foolish sometimes. Why did I invest so much of my life in this person or these people? Why did I give them? Remember, there's one hadith I have, and I tell you, this hadith has changed my life. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam says that when it comes to friendship, don't be so deep in the friendship and reveal everything about yourself. Because God forbid, if you become enemies, they can expose you. And don't be so deep in the hatred for your enemy, because if tomorrow they become your friend, you might be ashamed of that enmity. Oh, look at the balance of that a little bit. Beautiful hadith, beautiful hadith. Beautiful. I mean, I tell you, these things are words to live by. Identify the toxic people in your life. Now, a lot of you say, look, Mohan, that's fine. That's friendship. What about family? Their blood. qatl rahim, all these scary hadiths we talk about when it comes to cutting off ties and it's shortening your life and this and that. And I'm here to tell you that yes, those hadiths exist, and I'm not here to ever say to anybody, any of you, cut off your ties. No. If you need a break, a step back, if you need to set boundaries for yourself, then that's important. That's important. In the name of blood relations, that could be, your siblings, your children, your spouse, your parents, your first cousins, your second cousins, your uncles, your aunts, whatever the case may be. If you've identified people in your life, in your family, that are toxic for you, okay? When I'm around them, I don't feel good about myself. I feel very anxious. I'm always on eggshells. I have anxiety. If you've identified that, then you have to set boundaries. Don't cut anybody off. Of course not. We don't do that. But we do set boundaries. And we do look after ourselves. And we do become a little bit selfish. Okay? And that's okay. Even when it comes to family. Because sometimes I find that when you do set boundaries, people respect you. Setting boundaries is important. It doesn't mean that you're cutting off ties. Nor is it something that's blasphemous in Islam. No, of course not. You look at the lives of the Ahlul Bayt, they had different relationships with different people in their life. The Prophet of Allah, he looked at, for example, Abu Talib as a father figure, and Abu Lahab as someone who he should set boundaries with. Imam Askari had siblings. One of them, Ja'far, was not known as a very good person in history. He set boundaries for him. And there are many examples like that. My humble advice to all of you tonight is that, number one, identify the toxic people in your life. Set boundaries. Don't let them have that much real estate and control over your life. And start off with your circle of influence. Start off with your friends. If I knew this stuff when I was 18, 19, oh my goodness, a lot of things would be different. But I didn't know. I didn't know. And now I'm telling all of you, especially my youngsters. Especially, even my elders. There are, when families meet up with other families, stop and ask you, does this family add any value to our family? Not in an egotistical way, but in a way that, in a way that, I have to look after me and my family. Is it okay if my kids hang out with their kids? Or is it the fact that they bring out the worst in them? I remember I had, we had gone somewhere to a function and there were maybe a few families there, and I keep my kids somewhat in a bubble, not like in a torture way, but I don't expose them to things. We don't have a television inside of my home. We don't have cable, let's say, for example. Obviously, they watch, when they want to watch, but everything is heavily controlled. That's the way that we parent, and that's okay. That's not made for everybody. So, my 13-year-old isn't really accustomed to a lot of these trendy terms. So I remember that, we went to this function. On the way home, she asked me, Baba, who is this? And she gave me a name of some R&B musician, some singer. And I said, where did you hear that? Oh, no, the person whose house it is, their kids took me up to the room and they just talked about music all night. And this R&B song and that rap artist and this album and this and that. So I didn't know what to do, and nothing made sense to me. Right? Again, I'm sorry. I don't mean to come across as holier than thou. That's just an example. I'm not trying to say anything else. Just one example. Stop and think, okay, do I want to put myself and my kids and my spouse in that position again? So it's not just for the young ones. It's also for us in terms of how we deal with families on families. Toxicity can destroy your faith. It can sit there and play with your mental health. It can make you feel like you are being, you're at the whim of somebody else. So that zalalat, that you being a low, humble person, which is reserved for God, actually now ends up being for somebody else. And that's not what Allah wants. And we have to make sure that we recognize that and we identify that. Okay? Keep in mind the verse from Surah Zukhruf, keep in mind the verse from Surah Furqan, and this hadith from Imam Sadiq is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Just a few minutes of masayib, and then inshallah your zahmat is over. Naturally, when we think about Ummul Baneen, we think about her sons, and of those sons, of course, we think about Abu Fazl Abbas. Her sacrifice, who she sent to the battlefield. is all part of her legacy. It's her humbleness. She knew exactly where she was getting married when she accepted the proposal of the Ummul Baneen. Entering that house now, where Fatima's kids are a little bit older. She walks in, and from the very first day, she establishes that I cannot replace your mother. And because we have the same name, I don't want you to call me by that name. I am your kaniz. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to make your life a little bit easier. Your mother was a woman of Jannah, and I could never replace her, nor do I want to. And so her obsession was that I want my children that I bear to protect the children that Fatima bore. And up until her very last moment, she recognized that dream. And while there's so much to say about the Messiah, there's one small incident that always breaks my heart and to truly, truly captures the selflessness and the legacy of Ummul Baneen is now this qafla has returned back to Medina from Karbala. Imam suggests, Bashir, go and announce our arrival. On the outskirts of Medina now, Bashir now enters Medina. Stands in the mosque of Rasulullah, says, Ya ayyuhal Yathrab, O people of Yathrab, know that this city is no longer capable of being lived in anymore. Hussein and his companions have been killed in the plains of Karbala. People come rushing out of their homes. The Bani Hashim come rushing out of their homes. What are you saying? What is this? I need more details. Where are the others? Where are the women? And Bashir now begins to tell them they are on the outskirts of Medina, just a few miles away, and they begin to make their way. Now there's tents now there. There are tents where Zainab is there. There are tents where Kulsum is there. And one tent is Imam Sajjad. Everyone gathers outside the tent waiting. Imam Sajjad's tent opens and he slowly but surely limps towards a chair being set up for him. He sits on that chair. He begins now to tell everybody what happened on the day of Ashura, what happened in Kufa, what happened in Sham. Now Zainab comes out. Kulsum comes out. They begin now to tell their story. Zainab talks about the battle of her brother, talks about how he fought, how many he killed, how he was able to ward off the enemy. But at the end, he was surrounded by thousands and thousands. He was alone. He was tanha, he was gharib, he was by himself, there was nobody around him. Ummul Baneen is listening to this. Ummul Baneen is watching Zainab's face talk about Hussein's battle. She's waiting to hear something. She's waiting to hear something. When Zainab is done, Ummul Baneen approaches Zainab and says, Shahzadi, I have one question for you. You talk about the battle of your brother. You talk about the fight of Hussein. You talk about the fact that there were thousands around Hussein. You keep saying he was alone. You keep saying he was alone. I have to ask for myself, where was my Abbas when Hussein was being killed? Why wasn't he there defending him? Did he let down Hussein? Did he disappoint all of you? If he did, accept my apology. Zainab grabs Ummul Baneen, begins to now embrace her, says, no, Ummul Baneen, your Abbas was a warrior. Your Abbas was so loyal. Your Abbas was courageous, but he had no arms to defend himself. Had he had those arms, he would have been there taking one arrow after one arrow after one. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel ibadat, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to give us that tawfiq to understand now sometimes the barriers on our path in the form of toxic people. We ask you, Allah, tonight Shab Jama'ah, it's Thursday night. We ask you, Allah, to please bless the marhumeen, give them their hayat barzakhi to be easy. And finally, Allah, one dua we have on the night of Jama'ah, and that is that we stand beside the Imam of our time when he comes, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الفاتحة إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات لتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان، تسبق صلاتي على محمد وآل محمد. يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا مولاي يا مولاي يا أبا، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها، ولم تلبسك من ملهمات ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبي بكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سن، وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زيارة علي بن الحسين. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. زيارة الشهداء. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة وسيدة